right. Okay. All right. Well, this was one of my favorite weeks in the booklet. So let's jump right in. It's 10:02 or whatever '02 it is, wherever you are. Um, let's see, Carla, you're in Arizona, so that means by Sunday of this week we will be an hour apart. We're the same time
Yep,
right
I
now.
changed. I did.
Yeah.
I already changed my calendar in between your coaching call and this one.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because it'll be for the next 6 months. No, it won't be 6 months. Will it be December, January, February, March? It's only 4 months. So 4 months of daylight savings. So, or no, what is it? It's the opposite of that. It's going back to normal. Anyway, so this chapter that was in this book, it was in the RAMP program this week, had some really good stuff. And we also are alluding to scroll number 6, which is I will be the master of my emotions. Now, a few of you were on the call just now. Isn't it funny that that's the scroll for this week, since all we talked about on the other call was a lot to do with emotions. So very important subject that that we probably don't pay enough attention to. And we're going to read that a little bit out of this book, The Greatest Salesman in the World, in a minute. But I really wanted to kind of go through and make some highlighted points about this chapter, about this week in RAMP. And this is just the workbook that you would have printed up in the beginning. I just happened to have ordered mine and paid the $50 to have a really nice colorful one from RAMP, and it directly from Workman Success Systems. And I really like having it because it's got blanks you can fill out. But one of the things that we when you start on the first video of this week was do the right thing, creating amazing experiences. And I wanted to make sure that we don't have to review it all. If you watch the videos, you'll see it. And I really prefer that you watch the videos rather than me regurgitate them for you. And then that's how you learn them. But they had a video in there of a friend of mine named Jeff Fernstall in that first video. It was Tammy Slay talking, but she cut away to a video of Jeff Fernstall, who's a top agent in Minnesota, in Coon Rapids, Minnesota. And he's also a coach and a speaker and a trainer. And he talked a lot about Disney and how Disney sets the standard for customer service and really pleasing your company. Then he showed a picture of when a buyer or a seller was coming into their office, they would go on their social media and find out what some of their favorite things were. And he found out that Justin loved soccer. So they had a sign when he came into the office that said, "Welcome, Justin." And there was a, what do they call it? That stamp on paper, does anybody remember what he used?
Watermark.
Watermark, right, Sean? They had a watermark of a soccer ball behind his name. Now, when I was working for Century 21 in the 90s, and I was a big recruiter, when I knew somebody was coming in to talk to me about joining our Century 21 office, we did put a sign up saying welcome, but we didn't obviously have social media as much in the 90s and no real way to know what their favorite things were. But it's really, really a great idea when you're thinking about adding customer service. But the one thing they said is do the right thing, creating amazing client experiences, that came up in my mind was educate them, communicate with them, try to figure out what their DISC is or their behavioral style so that you can communicate in a way that they'll hear you. And a lot of these things we've talked about before, but one of the things that I don't think, like they talked about, make sure that you're communicating with them on a regular basis. And that's a big deal in my business. I've always learned to ask, what is your favorite mode of communication? And I typically want to talk to you once or twice a week. What's good for you? Oh, no, I need to hear from you more. Or no, you just check in with me once a week. I'm good. Or, that kind of thing. I remember getting a really rough lesson in that by, texting and calling my client years ago, back when texting first was around. And they said, I'm not getting any of those. Could you just email me? Please just email me. So then made sure, I was taught to do that a long time ago. Ask them what style of communication is best for them and how often. So very important. And then they go into the basics, honesty, integrity, and things like that. So you really want to make sure that it has to become a system or it doesn't work. Meaning if you're going to treat somebody in a way that they want to be treated, remember, you've heard me talk about the book called The Platinum Rule. The golden rules: treat others as they would like, treat others as you would like to be treated. And the platinum rules: treat others as they would like to be treated. Much, much more up to date and really significant, because it means you have to find out how they want to be treated to treat them that way. And that's a part a lot of people don't like to take. I'll just treat them the way I like to be treated. We've talked about this before, but I want to share with you that it is important that if you want to go through life successfully, that you know your love languages. There's a quiz called the 5 Love Languages. You can take it online for free. It typically says a couples quiz, but I would do that if I were you. Take the couples quiz. There are 5 love languages, and you will be highlighted by the 2 that have the highest score. And that will indicate, listen to this, it will indicate how you typically try to please others. We mostly try to please others in our own love language. So for instance, I'm a person who, one of my love languages is physical touch. I'm Lebanese. I was raised to hug and love everybody, men and women alike. Well, that's no longer appropriate in today's world. So no hugging. I met somebody the other day for the first time, and she leaned in like she was going to hug. And I'm like, I'm always being warned. I say, oh, are we hugging? And she said, yes. So I hugged her, right? Because, COVID, all of this stuff, Sonia, all of this stuff is, change the way people look at things. So those are, again, if you know your love languages, you know how you want to be treated. But if you have a significant other right now and you haven't had the love languages done, you might be surprised at what their love language is. Okay, the 5 love languages are physical touch, quality time, acts of service, gifts, and words of acknowledgement. Okay, those are the 5 ones. And you might say, oh, well, they're disc. No, what your love languages are, your 2 big love languages, are not in any way directly correlated to your behavioral style or your disc. Okay. But the reason I say that is sometimes you can, if you understand the 5 love languages and you understand disc or behavioral styles, you can start to see or notice things about how the customer or the client wants to be treated, or how they prefer to be communicated with, and things like that. So it's very important, plays a big role in my life. I remember when I was first dating Casey, and I was wondering why maybe it wasn't connecting as I thought I would. I did the love languages, found out that her love languages were quality time and acts of service, and made a big difference in our relationship, me figuring out acts of service versus, wanting to just maybe hug her, or, maybe hold her hand and things like that wasn't her big deal. So something to remember for yourself. When you went on to, if you guys want to interrupt, just go ahead and interrupt.
It's funny is me and my wife, we're complete opposites of you guys. I'm like acts of service and she's touch. So it definitely is eye-opening from that standpoint when you discuss those things where they're asking for hugs and things. You're like, I don't want to give you a hug. And so you have to recognize those different, like you said, their needs based off of their love language. And so you have to adjust accordingly.
Right. And you'd be surprised, like when hey, Ted, welcome to the call, buddy. But you'd be surprised how much we, in our desire to impress or please others, end up doing our love language to them. Sean, it becomes almost habitual and you don't even know you're doing it, right?
Oh, no, it definitely is the case. Like
yeah.
we were having issues because like I'm acts of service. I'm like, I don't want to touch you. I showed that I love you by doing things for you.
Yeah. I just did your freaking laundry, right?
Exactly.
That's good. I like that there's some reality around this. Yeah. So, and if any of you have experiences with this, you can let us know, let me know. But I think the main thing that they were pointing out is that you want to create amazing experiences for your client. And it's so hard to do when you don't know what is an amazing experience for your client, right? So it's really putting yourself in their position. But if you have it systematized, and let me show you what I mean, right? Where is this real quick? Yeah, did you guys see this form that they asked you to download? Let me share my screen. You know, the About Me form, right? So when I coach real estate brokerages, there's a form similar to this called Getting to Know You form. So that if I'm a broker and I have agents in my office, I want a Getting to Know You form. It's very similar to this. This one's a little bit more personal, but this is something really great if you're entering people later on in the fourth video. Cleve is talking about how to build your database and maintain it and nurture it, right? All of those different things. This is a good way to do it, is knowing this and updating this. You know, maybe you add a child, maybe they had a child, or maybe one of their children had a grandchildren, like updating your database. So this was a good form. What was the other one they gave us? Let me see. Hold on. I don't know what happens when I click this. I thought I had it open. Oh, your objection skill set journal, which we'll talk about in a second. So, but yeah, it was I liked the videos for this week a lot more. They were a lot more in detail. On page, I don't know if it's 240 on your workbook, but on the page of the workbook, it's got a list of all the things. What can you do? Here are some small things you can work on as an agent to create an amazing client experience. So that one's good. And our why for great client care. Why do you want to be an expert in contracts? Those are all, like a lot of times I see that my clients are most relieved and feel comfortable because of my expertise. I got a referral from a lender that I used to use tons 30 years ago, and I don't use them very much now, maybe once or twice a year. But he sent me this guy that had a realtor, was wanting to buy an unusual commercial property. And he complained to the lender that, yeah, the guy doesn't seem to know anything about this. He goes, oh, you should call Rick. He knows that area of the Bay Area very well, and he does a lot of commercial and commercial and land. So I went and visited with the guy at the property, and I said, oh, just naming a few things that I already knew to be the case, and having worked with that city council and that city planning department before, I was able to give him some advice, and that's what calmed him down. He didn't ask about my past experience, my number of years in the business. I had been edified. Do you remember the term edified? By the lender, meaning he gave a sort of foundational introduction that made the guy relax and say, that sounds like the guy I need to be talking to, right? And I can't even remember last time I wrote an offer for a buyer, because I've overseen that for my team, but this is not somebody I could have handed over, because the specialty knowledge he had, I couldn't hand it to one of my buyer's agents. I need to be able to deal with them myself. So it's an unusual situation, because I don't really want to be doing buyers at all. That's why we have a buyer team. But the point of the story is that everybody needs something different to call it an amazing experience. So for this man, the time I took to spend with him and the fact that I knew the answers to his questions were what he called an amazing experience. And not all people are going to be like that. Like if somebody has, like Sean was talking about, we were at dinner last night and there was 4 of us, and 2 of us at the table have me and the other gentleman had the same 2 love languages. Mine is physical touch and words of acknowledgement, which is kind of like saying, pet me and tell me I'm pretty. All right. So if you think about that, then we knew how to treat each other, right? And I know you say, well, that's 2 men. No, it doesn't matter. If you know someone's love language in a business environment, you can still use it as a way to help promote the business environment. So if I know one's is physical touch, then when I'm saying something, I might tap them on the shoulder. Doesn't mean I have to be inappropriate or hug, just a tap on the shoulder. It's a physical touch, right? Or a compliment like that, or a warmer handshake. Like people say when you shake their hand, but if you put your other hand over it at the same time, it's a warmer and more physical touch type of handshake. So there's a lot of things you can do. And words of acknowledgement, man, you know a lot about that subject, Marty. I'm so glad we got to talk about it, those kinds of things. Okay. Let's see. Any comments on that, or thoughts or questions? Let's see. And then we go to overcoming the objections. That was Paul Sessom, my buddy, talking, and he is really good at understanding that subject because of the level of people he coaches. But what I love about this is, when we've all done, I like what's on page 244 where it says the ad Kessler close. Suppose there's a way for me to solve your problem. Is there any reason you would listen? And then allow the client to say no when they really mean yes. The other one, the feel, felt, found. Most of you have heard that before. I understand how you feel. Other people have felt the same way, but this is what they've found. I'm very careful about that because I don't want to put thoughts or words into my clients. Oh, I knew someone who felt that way before, and this is what happened for them. What's your thoughts on that? Instead of doing the whole feel, felt, found. You can change it around. The world's changing, guys. And so these old scripts and dialogues from years ago sometimes work, sometimes don't. We had a long call on our daily huddle today, our team daily huddle, about people showing property without having the completed pre-qualification letter. If you look at what Workman Success talks about, they used to talk about LP Mama script. If you remember from the earlier videos, they talked about an LP MAM script because the last A was the appointment. And now it's pretty much, you can forget all the script, take them out on the appointment, then solidify the relationship and ask them to get a mortgage for you, right? Because people tend to know what they're qualified for a lot better now, and they just want to get out and see the house. All right. So it's a different kind of consumer environment than it's been for the, 42 years I've been in real estate. So, okay. Yeah. So overcoming objections. I think most of you are probably pretty good at that because you're so busy. If you educate the people at the beginning, there's typically no objections. This is real estate, by the way. You're not forcing, when you're overcoming objections as a car salesman, people aren't going into a car dealership because you drew them in there. They went into the dealership because they needed to buy a car. So they're going to buy a car. Handling objections is going to cover which car they buy and which person they buy from. But buying real estate is a huge decision that had nothing to do with you. It started long before they ever knew you about buying or selling real estate, right? So your job is to sell you and overcome any objections to hiring you. Those are the kinds of things I'm talking about. So it's kind of a different situation than a standard sales objection thing, but I think that you might want to really review what it said about expert responses. Most of the objections I get are about, well, why would I offer that much in this market right now? Think about it. Everybody's having, in a lot of places, having to offer over asking. And the big objection might be, why would I offer that much? I go, well, how badly do you want the home? Well, what if the market drops? Well, are you buying this as a residence or are you buying it as an investment? Okay, I fortunately have a story that I can tell that in 1989, my wife and I bought a house for $292,000 in 1989. And in 1992, 3 years later, when we went to refinance the house, it was appraised at $232,000, $60,000 less than we paid for it 3 years ago, right? So I tell them, I go, today that house is worth about 1.7 million. Wait. Right? It's your residence. It's still owned by my ex-wife. No one ever moved. We didn't buy it as an investment property. It was our residence, right? So you have to sort of elicit the emotion tool. Like, you got to love this as a family more than as an investment. So lots of ways to deal with that stuff. Okay. The last, then there was the part about how to win in a competitive buyer or seller situation. That was Sarah Bernard talking, and it reminded me of a lady that did a course years ago when I was at Keller Williams. I think I heard the class in 2004, 2003. I heard the class, and her class was called Take 10 Listings a Month for Life. And one of the things that caught me in there, and the difference about what Sarah said in the video, is that I had lost a listing the month before I took this class. And the lady had told me that I'd lost the listing because there was some things the other agent was going to do that I didn't say anything about. So she just assumed I didn't do them. And you know what those three things were? Some of you have heard me say it before: lockbox, sign, MLS. Those were the three things. Think about it. Who doesn't do lockbox, sign, and MLS? Everybody does lockbox, sign, and MLS. So the month after that, it's June, I go to this class and she says these words: successful real estate agents state the obvious with passion. So when I'm listening to this video again with Sarah, she says, well, everybody's going to do a sign, a lockbox, and put the property on the MLS. But what makes you stand out? Well, maybe what makes you stand out is stating the obvious that you do, that everybody does in a passionate manner, right? And I can remember I lost a listing for not having done that. It was at the time a $900,000 listing, which is a lot of money back then. It was a very high, that was in 02. And then literally the next listing I went on after that class is I literally carried a big for sale sign and a lockbox in the door with me. Hi, how are you? You know, and I set it down as part of my listing presentation. And then exaggerated about the importance of this big old sign. And let me tell you about this blue box and what it's for, right? And then show them on my computer, turn the computer around, say, here's the MLS. 46,000 agents will see this overnight, you know. And man, you would have been surprised at the reaction, even though these were people who were selling their third home. They were still surprised about it. So setting yourself up to be different. She also talked about things called your unique value proposition, UVP. I want you to remember those. I used to teach them around the country years ago. And USP, your unique selling proposition. All right. So think about what that might be. What is your unique selling proposition? It could be your mission statement. Okay. We had a lady I used to teach this course around the country for Keller Williams about you. It was all about you and your real estate market. And we would help people figure out what their USP or UVP was. And, you know, it could be based on your name. It could be based on your past before real estate. So, you know, we had a cop in the class. This was like, seriously, this happened all over the country. We had a cop in the class. We helped him with protecting and serving your needs in real estate. That was his new unique selling, because what? He was a police officer. We had a guy that was an electrical engineer. Engineering your success in real estate is what we came up for. Do you see how these work? We had an Asian lady named Yo-Yo in a class I did in New York. She said, I can't come up with anything. I go, yours was easy for me, right in front of the whole class of 200 people. I said, avoid the ups and downs of real estate, call Yo-Yo, right? Like, just, you've got to be thinking, right? My mom always used to say when I was a kid, she'd say, we want everybody to feel at home at our house, right? So not my first one in real estate, but my second or third unique value proposition that I used was making you feel at home, right? Kind of goes with real estate, right? The term home. And that was something that I got from my parents, right? So now I could do a bunch of them. I could say where experience and expertise matters, meaning I've been in the business 41 years, that kind of stuff. So think about what your unique value proposition is. You can have a lot of value propositions, but you want one that's unique. You can also look at your mission statement, right? My mission statement is the Rick Jihad team. The mission statement of the Rick Jihad team is to improve the lives of all we serve, right? So that can be your, you know, improving the lives of all we serve, things like that. So setting yourself apart, whether it's a buyer or seller. And the big thing is they don't, you know, the whole idea behind this chapter or this video was to make sure that you're not discounting your fee, things like that. So think about that. And I love the workbook that gives you an idea to write down what is your value proposition, but what value are you adding for sellers? So experience, kindness, honesty, and, you know, all of those different things. That's why it's important also to come up with your core values and what those are. All right. Okay. And then of course, the last one was about your, let's see, where is it? Organizing, yeah, your database, the 4 laws of a database. And I love that it's, you know, basically law number 1's build, grow, nurture, and maintain. And this is one of the biggest subjects to me and the least mattered. Like I'm not going to go get coaching from somebody who only focuses on your database. It's not good for me because then I'm only got one pillar of income. But I also think that there's so much that can be drawn out of your database in terms of business. So one of the first things I learned when I was starting to coach was that your business has to be 67% repeat and referral and 33% new. So repeat, referral, and new business. And then most of the people were coming to the table with such a huge percentage of repeat and referral that they weren't adding to their database from new business. How can you get new business? Well, you can go door knock, you can hold open houses, you can meet people at the grocery store, at the gas station, and add them to the database. But so many of us have not sufficiently built our database. And not to sound repetitive, but we are talking about database again, and we've got one more week where we're going to talk about database again, is that we're really big at Workman as far as coaches go on this thing called your top 50. And we've talked about it here on the ramp calls. It's vital that you're be working your top 50. And while you're where does your top 50 come from? Your top 50 is a subset of your entire database. You understand the term subset? I know that's a mathematical term, but there it's drawn out of your database. Where's your database come from? Gary Keller used to call them your Mets, people you have met, right? You call it your sphere of influence. I talked to a guy the other day, a good friend of mine. He says, I don't like using the word sphere. I said, why? He said, because I have trouble pronouncing it. I said, all right, we could use your circle of influence, you know, your COI, your circle, whatever you want to do. But the sphere of influence is a little narrowing in my opinion, because I liked when Gary Keller used to say Mets, because it's everybody you've ever met. And I think I talked about it on the last call. I said, well, like, is there people, for instance, that when you call them, you could say, like right now, if Teresa called me, she could say, hi, it's me. And I'd know instantly who she was, right? Because I know her well. But think about all the different ways. If you look at the people in your phone and you'd say there's certain people in your phone that you can call them and say, hi, it's me. And they know instantly who it is, right? Or you might have to call people on the phone and say, hi, it's me, Rick. Right? And then you have another level. Hi, it's me, Rick Jiha. Okay. Then there's one more level. Hi, it's me, Rick Jiha. Do you remember me from the nonprofit thing that we went to together? Do you see how the levels of knowing someone are different, but you know them? Okay. Now, and then there's the last one. Hi, it's me, Rick Jiha. I don't know if you remember, but I've seen you over the years at different nonprofit events because I've been the MC. Do you recall meeting me? Like you can even go that far. Do you notice the difference in all of those 5 or 6 ways? But they're all people that could be on your database. And nurturing them, like getting them on your database and then getting them to where you've contacted them enough, communicated with them enough that they're starting to have this intrinsic relationship that's not based on visits, right? It's not based on how many times you saw each other personally or anything. So the thing about that is understanding that you can build this. Now, how? The US government says if you graduated from high school in the United States, you know 2,000 people by first name. 2,000. Do you know how people say that's BS? There's no way I know that many people. Well, you forgot you knew them. Because there's another guy, I forget his name, but he had this thing about your ability to stay in relationship with a maximum of 150 people. I don't like that either, right? I go across 150 people in one day, let alone, you know. So there's an idea that your database can be big. You can remember, go back, get your yearbook from high school, go back to your parents or your aunts or uncles and get address books. Remember all the people that you forgot you knew. That is truly building a great database. How will I do that? There's no way not to do it. But remember, you don't want to be building your database in the importance of a beautiful day when you could be talking to clients right now, out and about, door knocking, whatever. Rebuilding that database is stuff to be done early in the morning. We call it red time or green time. It's not in the booklet, it's not in the videos, but red time is stop time. It's the time that you wouldn't be picking up the phone to talk to a client or door knocking. So I always say before 8 a.m. and after 8 p.m. All right. In between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., most of the time you could be easily still gathering work. But if I'm going to sit and build my database, I like to do it when I'm definitely not supposed to be lead generating or being in contact with buyers and sellers. But man, a little focus, you could build your database really, really huge. I think I've shared with you guys the story before that. Hold on, I'm sorry, I thought this was off. I've shared with you the story before about having in my office in Fremont yearbooks from when I went to high school and my sons went to the same high school. And when they were going to the high school, I was paying for ads in the yearbooks to advertise me as a real estate agent. So they gave me complimentary yearbooks. So I can open them up. Well, guess what? The biggest buying age right now for first-time buyers is 30 to 35 years old. Well, my sons both fall in that age category, 30 to 35 years old. So when I'm opening their yearbook, guess what I'm seeing? A plethora of potential buyers in their yearbook. All right. Now I can go to their Facebook page, my son's, and see their friends. And a lot of times those are in there. So I can what? I can farm those people. But what else do I think? Wait a minute. I know their parents. We'd see each other at high school events and everything. So I can, and their parents are what? 60s, late 50s, 60s, maybe even 70s. And they probably went to the same school. And I can reach out and say, how's it going, man? 2-story homes starting to bother your knees? You want to talk about selling and buying something more 1-story, or where are you retiring to? Like, there's all kinds of opportunities to build my database. Now, Cleve was saying in there that you should be able to add 520 people a year to your database. People look at that and go, what? Well, it's not that big of a deal, right? Take 520 and divide it by 12. You're talking about what, 40, 45 people a month? And think about all the opportunities you have to meet people. Think of all the people you get emails from, just like right there. You know, Gina goes in, she sees emails, she says, oh, that needs to be captured, right? And put on our database and put on our mailing list. And we have 2 emails a month that go out to everybody, whether, you know, like every month. And I don't really have to do much for that. I might do a video once a month or twice a month. And Gina gives the people that do the newsletter links to our listings so we can share those. So those are the kinds of things that we're talking about that could, you know, make a difference and help you build the database. I love that part, because if you're going to have the best top 50 ever, then you need to know who you're missing out on that could have been a best top 50. And you don't if you're not really clarifying all of that. You know, I hate when I hear from a client, oh, I'm sorry, Rick, I bought a house from your cousin. I'm like, well, I have over 75 cousins in real estate. Could you narrow it down a bit? Like, who do you buy from? But it angers me because it's my fault. I didn't stay enough communication with them, and they probably went looking for another Lebanese realtor. I'm just kidding. They didn't. They just bumped into my cousins. But I really think that the better we do that, and I loved the part about nurturing them, law number 3, maintaining it, which meant that you called them and you saw what was different, right? Did they add kids? Did they, you know, just being in communication, saying what's different, what's new, what do I not know about you, what can you share with me? So those are good. And then of course, talking about the ABCs of lead generation, the 3-2-1s, those things that are all sort of basics that you've learned around as we came along. Now, if I said 3-2-1 and the ABCs of real estate, the ABCs of your lead generation, and that didn't strike a note with you, then I want you to go back to the videos and find out what the 3-2-1s are and the ABCs, because they are important parts of the building of your permanent business. So, all right. And then the wrap up, we just had our free Friday coaching call that we do the first and third Fridays. You're all welcome on it. But it was we were using this book on that. I didn't say anything about it today, but we use it every week on the ramp calls. And the scroll today is the scroll mark number 6, which today I will be a master of my emotions. And it says, it's one of nature's tricks, little understood, that each day I awaken with moods that have changed from yesterday. Yesterday's joy will become today's sadness, yet today's sadness will grow into tomorrow's joy. Inside me is a wheel constantly turning from sadness to joy, from exaltation to depression, and from happiness to melancholy. Like the flowers, today's full bloom of joy will fade and wither into despondency, yet I will remember that as today's dead flower carries the seed of tomorrow's bloom, so does today's sadness carry the seed of tomorrow's joy. Today, I'll be the master of my emotions. A few of you were on the call a few minutes ago on the Friday call, and I shared with you, and I probably shared it with you before, that I like to say that emotions are like kids. You don't want them driving the car, but you don't want to stuff them in the trunk either. And what that means, and while it's, you know, it sounds kind of funny, it means you don't want your emotions leading the day or driving the car. And you don't also want them in the trunk, which means you're pretending they're not there. You can decide what's an effective way to use your emotions. All right. And typically you can use them for good. You can say, okay, I'm going to take this pissed off mood I'm in and get really inspired to do something I've not done before. I'm going to take this joyous mood I'm in and share the joy. There's a million things you can do. But I love that scroll. I think it's important that you pay attention to it. By the way, if you don't have the book and you haven't read it cover to cover, it doesn't take long. Do it once. It will be life-changing in itself. And then you use the scrolls all the time to handle the different things that come up in your day. All right. That's our recap. We had down that this was going to go to December 3rd. And I am going to honor that because in the next 2 weeks, we'll finish week 11 and week 12, which is all the weeks we have. And then on December 3rd, we're going to do a wrap-up call for the whole course. It'll still be set for an hour, won't be that long, but and then we will be restarting the ramp course again on January 3rd. And I'm going to encourage you to invite people to join EXP and join with you, and then you can invite them into using the ramp course like this. Remember, it's literally a $2,500 to $3,000 course, and we're getting it for $149 a year. And that we have a lot of resources in there, including what's being given. Like you have 4 of the top coaches at the company teaching you these things. And then you have the other 3 video programs that you may or may not have started with. So remember those also. All right, well, that's all I got for today. So I'm going to give a moment for everybody to go around, see if anybody has any questions, comments, thoughts, ahas. Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining me. Have a wonderful weekend. Remember that next Thursday is Columbus Day. It's a holiday, but we'll still be here on Friday. Let me see what Carla said. Do we have access to the recordings of this call? Carla, do you mean?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, I do.
Yeah, this call is posted every week on Monday or Tuesday, usually late Monday or sometime early Tuesday on empirebuilders.pro, which is our website. No, it's on the Facebook page. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Ramp with Rick, which is a Facebook page, correct?
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, because I kind of fell behind, so I want to try and catch up over the next week or 2.
No problem. And this is a good time to do it. As we talked about for our Free Friday coaching call today, the importance of looking at the fact that there's 56 days left in the year and how are you going to use them effectively to make a difference in your business going forward. So, all right. Okay, everybody, have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you guys next Friday. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.